Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Circuit Spa de Francorchamps. It is Murph, and it's Jacob, and we are at one of Europe's greatest race courses. Jacob, the TV picture shows us some trees, and we're going to see a lot of trees tonight, buddy.
According to the track guide that Sophie put on the channel this week for Spa, as I learned, I wasn't sure exactly what forest Spa was located in, but it's certainly a historic track, the home of the Belgian Grand Prix for Formula One, home of many, many iconic moments throughout the years, and we're hopefully going to get some more here tonight.
Hopefully so indeed. And Jacob, there's something else that is a massive story here tonight at Spa. Let the fans take a look at the racetrack, buddy. It's wet.
Yes, I believe this will be the first time we have a track that's wet, at least to this extent, from the get-go. Many drivers opting for wet tires here in qualifying, and that does mean we're not going to see the typical tire change rule enforced as the session has been declared wet.
You know, the other thing that comes along with that is you got to hunt the puddles. You got to keep those tires cool. You got to keep them in good shape. And Jacob, it also means that they're going to be able to run a little bit longer on fuel, doesn't it?
Potentially. It definitely will help in the fuel factor, not being able to get the car quite as up to the same speed, but I still do imagine that we'll see roughly the same fuel window, just given how big this track is. You know, it stands at over 4 miles. It's longer than Road America, which we saw a couple weeks ago, and that obviously has its own fuel mileage challenges that come with a track that big, so we'll just have to see how it shakes out over the course of the 21 laps here tonight.
Let's see indeed, and let's see Michele Constantini. We have not one but two pros in the field tonight. Michele in the Apex VRS machine going around Spa here. There he is, looking at it from the grandstands into what is known as the chicane, up through the start, finishing straight and headed for the La Source hairpin. There's Michele, and we're going to jump on board and give the fans a tour of Spa. Not from that. Let's see if we can't get a better view. Left front. There we go. And there we go. This is what you would see out of your left eyeball if you were driving the circuit here at Spa. And this is considered the easy version, Jacob. It used to be back in the day you would just go straight at the end of the Kimmel Straight and take a tour of what is more or less Middle Belgium.
Yeah, there's a couple sims I know that have historic versions of this track. You were basically blowing by people's houses with how close they were located to the course in a number of its historic configurations. Fortunately, someone saw some sanity and opted to give us a more fit-for-purpose racetrack here, and we'll turn right and start heading down the hill, down towards that triple left-hander, I believe. Is that Pouhon? I'm not admittedly unfamiliar with the corner names here.
Yes, that is Pouhon. That is turn number 12. And then we get to 13, 14, and 15. That's the campus complex, followed by Stavelot. And then the third sector, the corner that you really have to watch for, 17 and 18, Blanchimont. Those are the fast left-handers. They are flat out in the dry. And then you come to, they're flat out in the dry. And then you come to the chicane, 19 and 20. They have removed the bus stop, quote unquote, that they used to have before the Eau Rouge Redalion complex, from 6 to 7. That is the Kimmel Straight up to Lacombe, and then they turn right and go back to the forest at Bruxelles, another famous corner. That's turn number 10. He is headed down through Blanchimont now toward the chicane, and watch. Michele Constantini is going to stand on the brakes. Here he goes. Left, right, and Jacob, if I'm not mistaken, no, he's on wets. I thought for a second there the animation had him on dry tires, but those are definitely the wets. And right now, Michele Constantini is the quickest of the group. Now, Indy cars have never visited here in life, have they, Jacob?
I don't believe so. They have visited Zolder a couple times from what we've recounted, but I don't believe we've been to Spa.
We have not been to Spa either in its current form or in its we have not been here in its current form, nor have we been here in its past incarnation. Of course, this track has been around for a very long time. The circuit was founded in 1925. It hosted its first Grand Prix in 1925. It hosted the first ever modern Formula One race in 1950. And it's held a Grand Prix every year since 1985, except for 2003 and 2006. In those years, there were some disagreements about cigarette advertising. And so, Jacob, no race in those years. But we are ready for a grid, my man. At least I think we are. Yeah, we are. There we go. On the pole, it's going to be Michele Constantini. His lap, 2 minutes, 11 seconds, .364. Remember, that is in the wet. He'll be flanked by Logan Edwards. Edwards, an excellent qualifying run, Jacob, in that Luke Mansky Racing Esports machine. He out-qualifies the pro, Jaden Munoz. Munoz will start third, and that, my friend, is something that I would consider to be an upset. Munoz and Alistair Khan will take row number 4, or row number 2. That's these 3 and 4. Kevin Desnoyers, Anna Klimek, Ross Benfield, Kevin Burrell, the General, Jacob Oster, in his debut run for Power Slide, is going to go from 9th. And Alexander Russell, another pro for Power Slide, he will start in the 10th spot. In 11th, Caleb Brashear, Rashad Craig, Shady Ahmed, Matt Taylor will go from 14th. The newest member of Team I5G, Daniel the Cat Durazo, is 15th. Nadi Immel, Alexander Van de Zandt, Alan Bruteau, Hunter Ingrav, and David Hinger did not, Jacob, take time as we ready ourselves for what will be 21 laps here at Spa.
Fortunately, unlike Road America, we do have the shortened pace lap here at Spa, so we won't have to wait quite as long once it gets rolling to get us to the start-finish line here tonight.
We will not. For the record, the track record here, Sergio Perez, 1 minute 44.701. Of course, that was set in the dry in a Formula One car. What is the outright possibility on a lap here in one of these cars, Jacob, you think?
I want to say we were seeing stuff in the low 2-minute range. I'd have to double check exactly where we were sitting at. I'd imagine that depending on who you ask, you probably get something dipping maybe into that sub 2-minute range.
Copy that. So if you wanted to compare the cars, IndyCar is, of course, not nearly as fast as Formula One, but they would be just under the 2-minute, time period here at Spa in the modern configuration. I would have wondered what one of the Aero Kit DW12s would have done here, just with the extra downforce and such, Jacob. You would have imagined they would have been quite a bit faster, given that that configuration of this car was on average quite a bit quicker than the Universal Aero Kit that followed.
Yeah, so depending on the configuration, you'll see anywhere around 150 to 155 for the IR18. So around that sub 2-minute mark we were kind of alluding to.
That's about what we're thinking. Here they come. We are headed down. Toward Blanchimont, and once we get there, it is not far at all from the start. It's going to be interesting to me, Jacob, to see how these cars filter through this chicane, trying to stay side by side, of course. But here we go. There's the left. There's the right. The pace car is off, and we are away, Jacob. 21 laps here at Spa.
Green flag, green flag.
A slow start for Logan
Whoa,
Edwards.
We've got car around in the back. That's Shady Ahmed. Logan Edwards, you're right, did not get the break. Jaden Munoz has gone to second. Alistair Khan to third. Kevin Desnoyers gets through on Edwards as well. Everybody, by the way, is on the wet tires, and you can see the rooster tail as they streak through Eau Rouge and down the Kimmel Straight toward Lacombe. Off goes Alistair Khan now at the top of the hill.
Yeah, and the big thing that kind of differentiates this car from other cars we've seen with rain on the sim is we are operating with that aero screen, which is kind of the distinct feature of these IR18s, is having a full-on windshield in an open-wheel car. And the rooster tails, you know, I was riding on board in practice with a couple cars. If you get behind another car ahead of you, you can't see a darn thing heading through this track.
You can't. We're on board with Kevin Burrell right now. He's following Caleb Brashear, the SGE champion, and you know Kevin Burrell. He can't really see all that much. Of course, you know the wind screens, the windshields. They would have the Rain-X, so to speak, on them. But Kevin Burrell is having a hard time seeing what's going on here as he gets by Caleb Brashear, and there's trouble in front of him. I believe that was Shady Ahmed off. Alex Van de Zandt has crept into the picture. He is all over the back of Brashear, and this is something that you would expect to see in the rain. Different guys coming, different guys going. That's Ross. We're looking at Ross Banfield now. He and Anna Klimek, Alexander Russell, they're all over each other, Jacob, for 6th, 7th, and 8th. And then Burrell, Brashear, and Zant right behind them. They're having a heck of a tussle. Kevin Burrell has gotten away from that fight, but Alexander Russell, Ross Banfield, and Anna Klimek, they may be the best battle on the track, and they're rapidly being caught by Kevin Burrell.
Yeah, you've got to imagine these cars in the midfield are going to try to get as much separation between themselves as they can, especially in the early going here before we get to a potential pit cycle, since that likely will bunch the field up back just a little bit. Big dive for, I believe that's Van de Zandt on Brashear, heading off into the Le Source hairpin. They'll head down toward Eau Rouge and Radillon now. Full flat in the dry here. Not quite sure if drivers are lifting up through there. You'll hear it. Oh, Burrell's off.
Yes, the General Kevin Burrell does go off. I do appreciate everybody's patience. I had heard that there was no in-car volume, so I was trying to adjust that. But Kevin Burrell has gone off, and they are side by side, several cars deep, Jacob, all the way back through the field.
And honestly, I'd imagine some of that's just to try to improve the visibility of being able to see where you are on the track, right? You know, we talked about how difficult it is when you're trailing cars ahead of you to be able to make those decisions and get your car in a spot where it's comfortable. And I'd imagine that if everybody stays on the one line, it's going to dry up, and these wet tires are going to have a bit more trouble as the run wears on.
Definitely appreciate everybody's patience. As many of you know in the community, I recently got myself a new computer, and there we go. There we have engine noises, and a lot of settings have been. Jacob, what would be the word wonky?
Sure.
For the last several days, last several broadcasts, we're trying to get those ironed out because at P1 we do want to absolutely give everybody the best product we can. But we've got engine noises back now, and there's Ross Banfield. He moves along in 7th. He's got Alexander Russell behind him, and here's the not new colors for Jacob Oster. He does not yet have a paint, Jacob.
Sometimes you just got to bust out over reliable.
That's right. So Jacob Oster runs along in 5th. No power slide paint for him as yet, but there he goes through the hairpin, and he's going to plunge down toward Eau Rouge. And this is one of, if not the most fearsome corner in all of motorsports, Jacob. Don't lift, brother. Whoa, Jacob Oster, and you're on board with him, and it is nearly gone. He gets way out of shape. He's going to be passed by Alex Russell, and here goes Ross Banfield going to try to take advantage as well. Jacob Oster just about came to grief at the top of the hill, Jacob.
Talk about a fitting pickup for power slide. Oster was full-on locked up on the steering wheel trying to get that thing up the hill there.
Yes, he was. I backed out. I thought for sure that car was going around. As it turns out, Jacob Oster manages the save, but he's going to fall back to the 7th spot in the lead. We'll give the man his due. There's Michele Constantini. He runs along in the lead. He's about 2.5 seconds ahead of this man, Jaden Munoz, in 3rd. Kevin Desnoyers has separated himself by about 3.5 seconds over Logan Edwards. And then the fight is here. It's Alexander Russell, Ross Banfield, and Jacob Oster. And look at how out of shape these cars get, Jacob.
Yeah, it's very, very tricky to get the power put down, especially when you're not pointed perfectly straight off the corner. And I'd imagine a number of these guys are just trying to get the cars out of kind of the slick, if you will. You know, the puddles kind of pool up near the lower portions of the track, and a lot of this portion of the track we're going through now with Banfield, Russell, and Oster now is towards the bottom of a hill. So that's where a lot of that water is going to try to settle in a little bit, and you'll see drivers have to navigate the very, very thin lines of actually decent running here.
There is. We were looking off the back of Ross Banfield into Jacob Oster. You cannot see in that spray. Of course, you see Oster. He's shading to the right or left, depending on the corner, just so he can pick up his braking spots. It is very difficult to see there. It is worth noting the track is wet, but it is no longer raining, Jacob, and that lends the specter of we may see dry tires yet here today at Spa.
Well, don't speak too soon. It looks like potentially towards the later stage of this race, there is a slim, and I mean slim, chance of additional precipitation to come down. We're talking single digits in the percentage range, so it's possible that we stay wet this whole way through. Just going to have to wait and see.
You do want to check back here on the battle for 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th. That's being currently led by Anna Klimek. Anna the Deer is in 9th, but she has a whole boatload of trouble. Hunter Ingrab, Alex Van de Zandt, and Caleb Brashear in 10th, 11th, and 12th would love to make a move. This is the battle. This is the best battle on the race course. It is worth mentioning that Shady Ahmed started very well. He has fallen all the way back to 17th. And another car that you would expect to do well in a race like this, Rashad Craig, former Indy Open champion. He currently runs along in 18th. New i5G man Matt Taylor, there he is in 19th. And so there are some cars that you would expect to be close up to the front that are not really having all that great of a day, Jacob.
Well, the rain here is kind of still a new factor. We haven't seen a ton of it, especially to this extent where the track is properly wet, especially from the drop the green like this. So it's definitely a challenge that a lot of these guys are going to have to kind of get more accustomed to as it makes more and more appearances throughout the series.
Is indeed on board with Alex Van de Zandt as he nearly has collision with Hunter Ingrab, and you can see Zandt fighting the wheel on this Dallara IR18, just struggling to get any sort of power down. The reason that I had hopped on board, Jacob, was just to kind of see if there was any sort of a dry line forming. We have no indications of that, but what we do have indications of is Alex Van de Zandt is off and hard in the wall.
I think caught a little too much of the curb and the runoff, and just around you go. And that seems to be the slickest part, is kind of those painted areas, especially the raised portions through the curbs there. Definitely going to be tough to maintain traction there, and around Van de Zandt goes.
Yeah, let's get back out and get to it. There he is. He's making the move. He's trying to make the move around Alexander Russell. I don't know that he got the curb until right there. Now, he was fine on the curb, but it's once he got to that concreted part after the curb that the car just absolutely shot to the left, and out of the race goes Alexander Van de Zandt one more time. And this is how close this is. Watch this. He's fine on the curb. He gets on that green painted part and no control of the power slide machine, hard into that wall, Jacob.
Yeah, people tend to forget that there is a decent drop-off between curbing and those painted portions, and that upsets the suspension just a little bit. And then you have to imagine it's paint. Wet paint ain't going to give you too much grip out there. It's kind of like sliding around on a big old pile of AstroTurf when it's wet to a certain extent. So,
and there are parts of this circuit where the runoff is AstroTurf, if you remember correctly, Jacob. And so that would be mighty slick as well. That's given Anna Klimek a bit of a reprieve. She's now pulled away 1.3 seconds over Hunter Ingrab. The best battle on the track then goes to Ross Banfield and Jacob Oster. Oster has recovered from that slide at the top of Eau Rouge to now run back in the fifth spot. And here's Jacob. He runs fifth. Ross Banfield is sixth. Alexander Russell has fallen back to 11th, and he is trying hard to get by Caleb Brashear, Jacob.
Yeah, he's looking all over the back of Brashear, heading down towards that last chicane here. See if maybe he can make a move down the Kemmel straight, since I don't think he's going to get alongside here into the chicane. He does not. So that'll be the next opportunity. He's kind of heading down the Kemmel. We'll see if that brews and builds up and he can make a move.
There he is. They're going to come down the start-finish straight, which is not the start-finish straight in an endurance race. That's the next straight, which is here. Alexander Russell goes to the inside at La Source. It's interesting. You see the pit lane on the left side of your screen. That would be driver's right. That is the pit lane for the 24 Hours of Spa, which is different than the Formula One pit lane. And look at that huge puddle at the bottom of the Eau Rouge Radallion complex, Jacob, as off goes Alan Berteau in the background.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was alluding to when we were talking about the other portion of this race is the bottoms of these big, massive hills here is where that water's going to go because, well, that's just where the water goes when it tries to flow down the hill and settle somewhere, and there's kind of pockets all around this track with those big hills that are going to kind of flatten off, and that's where the water's going to end up. And when you're trying to go flat foot or close to it uphill, managing all those direction changes, you can spin your car around easily in the dry. In the wet, that only makes it harder.
It most certainly does. We do want to get back a little bit. Nadi Immel has closed in on defending series champion Alan Berteau. Immel 13th. Berteau not having a good day in the wet. He is P12. Michele Constantini, by the way, is now 3 seconds clear of Jade Munoz, and they have walked away from Kevin Desnoyers. Desnoyers a further 5 seconds back. This is now the best battle on the track. It is Berteau 12th, Immel in 13th.
Bit of a moment there for Nadi heading off towards whatever corner we're at. I don't have a track map pulled up, but we're turning right, heading down towards the double lefts.
That would be Puhan. It's turn number 12. That's the corner that we're approaching. It's a double apex left-hander, and then you go down the hill. This whole second sector really is downhill, Jacob.
Yeah, it's basically a gradual descent from once you get to the end of the Kemmel all the way back until you start heading back up the track on the other end of the La Source hairpin with Eau Rouge and Radillon. So it's going to be one of those things that we're going to see kind of the back half and the starting of the next lap be the biggest issues in terms of where the water's building up, and then kind of the high and dry portion of the track is going to be a bit less wet.
We do indeed. Back on board with Nadi Immel. And just listen to them fight, Jacob. And I mean listen to them fight the throttle as they try to get as they try to put the power down, try to maximize their time through those famous corners at the beginning of the Kemmel Straight, and that is key to getting a big lap time. The quicker you get through there, that really makes an entire third of your lap, and so it's interesting to hear the drivers fight for grip there. We do want to give him his due. There's Michele Constantini leading the race. One more time, Jaden Munoz is second. Kevin Desnoyers is third. Logan Edwards fourth. Kevin Burrell is fifth. Do want to thank everybody for tuning in. This is the first rain race of the Indy Open history. Well, the first really full wet race. We've had rain, and we've had rain tires very briefly, but we have not yet seen a full deluge. This is it, and Michele Constantini here for it. He stretched out a 4-second lead over this man, Jaden Munoz. Munoz is second, and there's Munoz. Kevin Desnoyers in the first Fiercely Ford entry is third. Logan Edwards is fourth, and there's Logan, the Luke Mansky Racing Esports entry. Kevin Burrell is fifth, and he is being hunted down by Ross Banfield. Banfield has been a hair quicker than Burrell at times, so we'll keep it right here and see if Banfield can chase him down, Jacob.
Yeah, the one thing I did see is the gap between Munoz and Constantini lap over lap isn't that much. It's around 2.5 tenths of a second. So It really would only take one big mistake for Munoz to be right back in it, potentially be able to start gaining some ground on Constantini through a little bit of draft or just being closer in proximity. So certainly still a battle for the lead to be had if the cards fall the way they could.
Well, and to be fair, and I don't mean to keep hyping this, and we do want to thank everybody for watching. Big audience again tonight. If you haven't already done it, make sure you smash the like button on the video, ring the bell, subscribe to P1 so that you can be notified of all future iRacing broadcasts. But Jacob, to be fair here, we don't know what the weather holds, if it's going to rain some more or if this track is going to dry out. There is not yet a dry line in evidence, but I can feel it coming if we continue to circulate here with these wet tires on. I'll tell you what's not in debate, Jacob. The track is getting faster. Michele Constantini, the last time through, 2:11.087. That's 3 seconds faster than he qualified. And so the track is getting quicker for certain sure. Do want to point out that Hunter Ingrab is now challenging Anna Klimek. That's Ingrab on the outside, Klimek on the inside. Don't touch. Whew. Have we lost Jacob Collins?
No, they're there, thereabouts. Looks like Hunter made the move.
It does indeed look like Hunter's made the move. There he goes into the 8th spot. That'll demote Anna Klimek to 9th, and she is immediately going to be under attack by Alexander Russell. This is about as far back as, Jacob, I believe we have seen Alexander Russell run in one of these races. There he is, and that's a former pro shoe, and he is not having himself a good night. Of course, the rain is a great equalizer, isn't it, Jacob?
Well, I think it's an equalizer in that, a number of guys haven't had a ton of experience in it, right? The cream of the crop's still going to be relatively the same. We're seeing guys like Munoz and Constantini run away with it, but they've potentially had more time to prep with it. Kevin Burrell maybe qualified a bit worse than he was expecting, but he's managed to hold steady and start working his way forward. So ultimately, it's going to equalize out just a little bit. Oh, big moment for Ingrab heading up the hill.
Yeah, he's all the way off in the runoff, and that's going to let Russell and Klimek go right back on by. So all that hard work goes for naught for Hunter Ingrab as he falls back into the 10th spot. We're still watching Russell and Klimek. This is not the best battle on the course, though. Ross Banfield has now caught the general Kevin Burrell. There's Banfield in the number 4, immediately behind the Fiercely Ford liveried machine of the general Kevin Burrell. And look, Daniel the Cat's going to get out of the way, and that's great sportsmanship for him. He spent some serious time in the pit lane, been off the course on a couple of different occasions. But the one thing that's kind of the wild card here, you talk about the wet, we talk about drivers, it being the great equalizer. That's not necessarily what I meant. What I meant by that, Jacob, was in an open setup series where we haven't had these conditions a lot. Nobody really knows, right? Nobody really knows how to set this car up in the rain. We don't have the thick notebook for rain setups like we do dry ones. Not only that, but we come to Spa once a year. This is not a track that this series normally visits, is it?
Well, I imagine it's one a lot of guys have a pretty good baseline at, given that it's fairly regular in its appearance, even if it is only that one time a year. There's probably some decent baselines with other similar tracks in terms of the elevation change and a lot of the corner complexes kind of flowing into each other. So I'd imagine there's at least something, and I'd imagine that by and large, maybe the biggest adjustments you're going to try to make between wet and dry is maybe slight ride height adjustments, maybe slight tweaks of the aero. But by and large, I think that you're going to want to try to keep it as conservative as possible just to keep the car glued as best you can, especially the wetter and wetter the track could be.
That may be so. I just, my thought is we're not seeing, of course, Michele Constantini, Jade Munoz, the two pro drivers, they are leading, but it's not been typically the guys that we would normally think about up at the front. Jacob Oster is now on the pit lane. He's been there for a minute, and that's going to be day done for Jacob Oster, so he has found trouble here as we go back to the battle between Banfield and Burrell, the Killer Bees, 5th and 6th. You've also got Anna Klimek and Hunter Ingrav. They're going after it one more time. Alexander Russell has escaped up the road, 2.5 seconds now over Hunter Ingrav. But these two are putting on a show as well, Jacob. And it's kind of a mixer, right? Rashad Craig, noted for his road racing talent, his setup nous. Rashad Craig is trundling around 1 minute and 22 seconds off the pace in 15th. That is not something that we would normally expect from the Indy Alliance campaigner, nor would we expect similar for Matt Taylor. There's Taylor, newest addition to Team I5G. He's having a rough time in the wet as well.
I think a number of people got caught out by it. I saw comments from the likes of Nadi Emmel that was saying they probably needed to practice more in the wet. I think it caught some people out, especially given the record we've had in this series historically, where it doesn't really impact that much. We get maybe a light drizzle or maybe just enough to dampen the track up, but by and large, it hadn't had the impact we've seen it here tonight with guys just genuinely struggling getting around the course, even on the wet tire.
Very true. Now, what's the forecast doing? What's the forecast doing now? We're going to go ahead and bring that back up. It is still the same. It is still the same air and track temp. 65 in the air, 60 on the track. So positively cold. And it is overcast. It's not yet raining, Jacob. We've got 10 laps to go. We're about halfway. What are you seeing on that radar?
Well, the overall percentage has gone down even further than before. It doesn't look like we're going to get any new precipitation coming in anytime soon. But what I did start to notice riding on board with Constantini towards the lower portions of the track is, by and large, the line he's running is more or less dried out. Obviously, you can only see so much from the outboard shots, and it doesn't really start to pick up until you get towards the start-finish line. So it'll be interesting to see if maybe we see a car or two try to gamble onto drier tires, thinking that the track's dried up enough to be able to do so.
Watching the battle between Ross Benfield and the General Kevin Burrell. They are the closest two on the track. It is worth mentioning that we are not going to see, Jacob, it is worth mentioning we are not going to see pit stops in this race for tires. We may see them for fuel, but do you change tires? It's a great thought, a great question. How about it?
I'd lean towards needing to, especially given that there is going to be a decent amount of wear still, even if by and large we're trudging through wet portions of the track. I think I'd rather, you're already going to be taking the fuel anyway. You might as well take the tires, reduce that risk, reduce that gamble, because worn out wet tires coming to the end of this race are probably not going to be all that fun to be on, especially if the track's completely dried out.
Very true. We continue to move along, and in comes Ross Banfield. So Ross Banfield is going to be the first to blink. He is on pit lane, and let's see what Ross Banfield does here. It is a very tricky pit entrance, not because it's hard to get to, but because the other side of that chicane is extremely narrow. I would expect we're going to see at least one person get caught out by that. In comes Banfield, and let's see. He goes up on the jack, so new tires and fuel going in for Ross Banfield. Meanwhile, Michele Constantini is your leader, and he is already, Jacob, he is already headed down toward the Pujan corner. That's turn 12, and he's roughly a half a lap ahead of Banfield and those guys.
Yeah, he's been picking up a decent bit of time over Munoz now. Last time around, it was about a half second between the two. Constantini pulling the advantage there. So he's really started to stretch this lead out. Now nearly 10 seconds back to Munoz prior to this lap starting. So I'd imagine that's only going to increase. But he's definitely figured something out. Maybe he's found where he can get his car through the driest portion of the track as quickly as possible and just make all that time. We see guys in the midfield maybe struggling a bit more for speed, especially when you get down to maybe just outside the top 10.
Well, and something that I'm looking at is as we get on board and Constantini is going to come into the pit lane, something that I'm kind of looking at, Jacob, with the onboard. One, the spray coming off the back of these cars is not nearly what it was. Jaden Munoz is not nearly what it was earlier in this race, but we're starting to see the track change colors. Kevin Desnoyers is going to go around one more time, so score an extra lap for the Fiercely Ford man. Not only that, he was fractionally quicker than Jaden Munoz last time through, and so Desnoyers maybe with a chance to close up some gap here. Munoz is coming back, getting ready to come back out. 27, 28, 29, 28.2 seconds. He was 8.2 in the box. And this is going to be interesting to watch a guy wrestle one of these cars on very, very cold, brand new wet tires, Jacob. We'll get back to Michele Constantini.
Yeah, and Michele just missed the rise up the hill. He came to the left side of the track, opted to just basically miss the corner entirely, and still held on to it, pointing the right direction. No moment or slide, just might have missed his mark trying to get up the hill there. But we'll see as his tires come up the temp, see if he's able to get that thing wrangled in before too long here.
Eyes on him. If there's going to be a mistake for Michele Constantini, it's going to come in these first couple of laps on cold wets. In the wet, it is no longer raining, but the track is absolutely soaked. And honestly, Jacob, as much as I'd like to see some sort of differential with the tire strategy here, I don't know that we're going to see it. You can tell the track is changing colors a little bit, but there is still a ton of spray off the cars and a ton of puddles all the way around this Spa-Francorchamps course.
Yeah, and it looks like you really only see any sort of die-off when we get down to the lower, maybe towards the closing portions of the lap, maybe just a little bit, as the drivers start to slow down, and that might just be because they're not treading through it quite as fast. You're not seeing it kick up quite as much, so... But you definitely see a dry line develop, and I just don't think we're going to have enough time for that to play a huge factor.
Oh, if this race were full length, if we were doing a full length Grand Prix, 40 some odd laps, Jacob, I think you would see a dry line eventually. We're just not going to have the time to see one now. Constantini makes his way through. Desnoyers is in the pit lane, and that's going to hand the lead right back to Michele Constantini. The best battle on the track then reverts to these two. They've been at it for most of the evening already. Alexander Russell has the 9th spot. Hunter Ingrave wants it, and Ingrave is coming. He was 6 seconds quicker than Russell on their outlap, Jacob.
Yeah, if that pace maintains consistent, he can maybe start to reel back in on a Klemek, who's about 3 seconds down the road. We'll see if that somehow rings true over the course of the next couple laps. Let's see if he's got a shot to sneak back into the battle for 6th.
Well, Anna and Alistar Khan have not stopped. And here comes Hunter Ingrave. Tries the outside on Alexander Russell. That's not going to work. He's going to have to follow Russell through the chicane one more time and then back up the start-finish straight toward the La Source hairpin. Do want to thank everybody for watching. You are looking at the battle between 9th and 10th. It's Hunter Ingrave and in 10th, Alexander Russell in 9th. That's Rogue Racing behind Power Slide Motorsports. We do want to thank everybody for tuning it in. If you haven't already done it, make sure you smash the like button on the video, ring the bell, subscribe to the channel so you can be notified of all future iRacing action. This is Mark Murphy and Jacob Collins, and you're watching the INDYCAR Open Series top split here on iRacing. Jacob, that track's starting to look more and more dry. There's going to be somebody here that's going to try it. Alan Bruteau has gone off, by the way. There's going to be somebody that's going to try it, Jacob.
I just don't know if the pickup is going to be worth it this late in the going, right? We saw guys extend that first stint to be able to make it likely on one stop. I can't imagine, unless you've got a huge advantage, that anybody's going to opt for dries.
Absolutely. Constantini just continues to hammer away now. He's over 5 seconds clear of Jaden Munoz. Kevin Desnoyers is 11 seconds behind Munoz. And then it's another 17 seconds back to Logan Edwards. And then the field is relatively close. Uh, Alexander Russell has now gotten clear of Hunter Ingrab for 8th. And so those two are in good shape, and we'll kind of go through the field now that everything has settled down. Jacob, there is your leader, Michele Constantini. He is by far the quickest car on the course. He owns the fastest lap. Jacob at a 2:11 flat. His last lap 2:11.180. So the track is no longer getting faster. It did for quite some time. It has stopped doing so. Jaden Munoz is second, and there's Jaden. He's about 5 seconds behind your leader. In third, Kevin Desnoyers, and there's Kevin in the Fiercely Ford car. You'll know Kevin because his car is trimmed in green. He occupies the final spot on the podium. In fourth, it's Logan Edwards, Luke Mansky Racing Esports, and there's Logan. In fifth, it's the general, Kevin Burrell. There's Kevin in the fifth spot. Ross Banfield will occupy sixth. Alexander Russell is seventh. We have shown him quite a bit. He just got by Anna Klimek to move into seventh, and there's Klimek in eighth. And guess what? She is getting ready to do, Jacob.
Well, you know, Hunter's held on to it. He's on her now.
He most certainly is. There's Hunter Ingrab, and he has now caught Anna Klimek. Alexander Russell has gone through, and now Klimek is going to face fire from Hunter Ingrab. Alistair Khan, and there's Alistair, will round out your top 10. David Hinger, a regular visitor to the top split, is in the 11th spot. Matt Taylor has made his way to 12th. The veteran will be followed by Shady Ahmed. There's Shady in 13th. Rashad Craig, former series champion, is in 14th. And something seems amiss on Rashad Craig, and I think I know why, Jacob. We've got our first taker on the dry tires, and it's going to be Rashad Craig, and he does not look happy, sir. That is not a happy handling machine. He's going to give it a go, though. He might as well. And see if he can't make something happen. He's about where he's going to finish anyway. It's not hurting anything. This is his first flying lap on those dry tires, and it's got to be a handful.
Yeah, it's a big gamble, and there's really nothing more to really lose for Rashad here. Mostly just probably trying to get an idea of just, Brownie goes at La Source, but just how wet the track can be.
Yeah, his last time through 3 minutes 24 153. He's just not able to go fast enough to get those reds up to temperature, those red alternate tires up to temp, and he's going to have to trundle around very slowly, come back and fit some Firestone wet tires just so he can finish the race. Rashad Craig goes for another lurid slide. Up the hill. Not you 2935 is absolutely right. There is no compound swap when it's wet, so you don't have to change compounds. But you can see Jacob at the end of the Kimmel Straight. You can see the dry patches in the track. Rashad, though, he's going to go around again here. He made the try. Now he's got the black flag. He tried it, but just not going to be able to make it work.
No, I just don't think enough of the track is dry where you need it to be, or let alone to the extent you need it to be to make that dry compound work. But it's worth a shot if you've got nothing really else to throw down the table, if you will, to make up ground here late in the going.
You know it is, and that unfortunately that black flag, he's going to have to come serve that separately from a tire change. And if I were Rashad, I'd come get me some new tires before I served and come back around before I served the black flag, because he's in danger of losing a spot now to Alan Brutteau, and you want to protect your position, your I rating as much as possible. So Rashad needs to come back and grab some wet tires as quickly as possible. And speaking of Brutteau, there he is. He had some early confrontons, and he is in 15th. He's a lap behind Rashad Craig, who is a lap down, and then Caleb Brashear is still out there circulating. Brashear is in 16th, retired from the race. Jacob Oster, Nadi Immel, Daniel the Cat Drazo, and Alex Van de Zandt positions 17th through 20th. Do want to thank everybody for joining in. We've got a big crowd tonight, and it is raining in Spa, Jacob. And that means it's been complete domination by the two pros. Michele Constantini, Jaden Munoz, have stretched a 16-second lead over Kevin Desnoyers. Logan Edwards is another 20 seconds off the pace from Desnoyers. Then the general Kevin Burrell round out your top five. Interestingly enough, though, Jacob, we've still got 12 cars on the lead lap. The next car that would be under threat of going a lap down would be Matt Taylor, and I don't think they're going to get to Taylor. He's another 20 seconds up the road. So it looks like we're going to have 12 cars finish on the lead lap, and that is a pretty good number here at Spa. Looking at Constantini, he's going to come across the pit lane. He's going to come across the start-finish line, and we have 4 laps to go, Jacob, here at Spa. What has surprised you about tonight, if anything?
I don't think a whole lot's necessarily surprised me. I think, if anything, it's just shown how much there is to be gained and learned from figuring out wet weather conditions, right? You know, we're seeing the likes of Constantini and Munoz make large headways, Desnoyers to a lesser extent, you know. The guys that have got a lot of experience in the wet through sports car stuff, that have maybe seen it a bit more, been able to adapt to kind of how you have to adjust your driving approach. Like, ultimately, you know, there's something to be said for how you have to drive a Formula car compared to a sports car, but I think wet weather driving kind of just has a certain level of finesse that you need to kind of reach with, regardless of the machinery, that can be greatly beneficial. We've seen that on full display tonight.
We have indeed. And speaking of displays, I don't think you could get any different from you could display any different types of driving than you could with the tracks that we've got in succession here in the Indy Open Series on iRacing. This week, it's a Formula One track in Belgium, and it's raining. Next week, we're going to a differential banked oval in Kentucky. And so we'll be here next week at 7 o'clock for the Indy Open Series live from the Kentucky Speedway. It's going to be Jacob Collins tonight at 7 o'clock. Of course, immediately following the Open broadcast, you have the Indy Next Series. Jacob Collins will bring you that one. And Jacob, the Road Series is here. Can you tell us where the Oval Series is?
No, the Road Series is actually at Miami this week, so that'll be a new one for everyone, more or less, to see. And then tomorrow night we'll be at Phoenix, the improper Phoenix for the Oval Series tomorrow.
The improper Phoenix, and that, of course, is right after our flagship broadcast, which is the Indy Oval Series, the Fixed Setup Series. It runs Tuesdays. It'll be at 7:15 Eastern. Wednesday night, you'll see the Formula Indy Series and the Horizon INDYCAR Series live here on P1. Thursday, Luis Gonzalez Nunez brings you the Elite Racing League Next Series, their Road to Indy Series. And beginning in February, Thursday and Friday, we'll have the AMA, the American Motorsports Association Grand National Series on Thursday. The trucks will run Friday, and once the INDYCAR Series proper starts, Jacob, Saturdays will have the iRacing INDYCAR Series, and then Sunday, and this is going to start in a week. Jacob, we're going to see the Votive Racing League return along with the Dark Horse DW12 Series and the first of the crown jewels, Jacob, the Votive Indy Derby, January, it's what, January the 6th, is it?
Let me double check that. The 11th.
January the 11th. See, that's why I have Jacob Collins along, ladies and gentlemen. He tells me when I'm wrong, which is most of the time, but we do look forward to the Votive Indy Derby. I'll be in that race. Jacob, you going to line it up for that one?
Mark, I'm top 20 in points from last season. I got a shoe in the show. I got to be there.
You know, that race has been so oversubscribed that Shane Coker has had to implement pre-qualifying for that race. When was the last time that we saw pre-qualifying in an IndyCar race? Anyway, the lap times here for Not You 29:35, they're holding steady. They're anywhere in the high 2:11s for the leaders. Jaden Munoz fractionally faster than Michele Constantini. It doesn't really matter given the gap. He's closed down a little bit, but he's not going to have enough time. The rest of the field is anywhere in that 2-minute 12-second bracket. You get back to Russell, Klimek. Those cars are in the 2:13s. You've got David Hinger running around 2:16. Rashad Craig has finally made a pit stop. I believe he has damaged that car, so he is finally on the pit lane. Alan Berteau has retired. Caleb Brashear trundles on. We're going to get back to Anna Klimek, Hunter Ingrav, and Alistair Khan because now there is a three-way battle with 2 laps to go, and they're going to have a disagreement here over 8th, 9th, and 10th. The track, by the way, to answer the question, Not You, has continued to slow down a little bit. We got down into 211 flat range with the leaders, and it has slowed up, not gotten faster, which I would have surely thought that it would have gotten faster given that it's no longer raining, but it's actually slowed up. Meanwhile, Anna Klimek has now caught the back of Hunter Ingrav, and they've been caught by Alistair Khan, and this is one of those fun ones, Jacob, where Alistair Khan is the fastest of the 3 cars based on lap time. 2:16 for Ingrav, 2:14 for Klimek, 2:12 for Alistair Khan the last time through.
Well, one thing I caught up on was on lap 18, so I believe the lap 2 laps ago, Desnoyers got loose heading up Eau Rouge and Radion and shoved it into the wall, so he's riding around with his front nose detached and lost 2 spots that last time by to Edwards and Burrell, and now runs in 5th. We'll see if Ross Banfield can reel him back in before this race ends.
Oh, he's gonna. There's Ross Banfield. He is right behind Kevin Desnoyers. It's not if, but a matter of when Banfield catches. To answer the question from Caleb Brashear, you've got 9 seconds for Constantini, 5 for Munoz. Logan Edwards, the old narc brain, has moved into 3rd. He's got 59 seconds. The general Kevin Burrell has 41 seconds. Desnoyers has 68 seconds. That's not going to matter. Ross Banfield has 134 seconds, and he is around the wounded Desnoyers. And now Desnoyers has got to see if he can somehow fend off Alexander Russell. He's got to make it around there for another 2 laps. Meanwhile, Ingrav, Klimek, and Khan continue to do battle.
Yeah, we made it down to 11 cars on the lead lap as Constantini makes it onto the final lap of the race. Tumultuous times for everybody throughout the field. We saw kind of the ups and downs of everybody, and I think the guys that are still left standing, pointing in the right direction, have made the most of their race here tonight. Props to every single one of them.
Absolutely, Jacob. It is not easy to keep one of these things on the road in the wet. These drivers have done a tremendous job. Kevin Burrell is now closing. He was a second and a half up on Logan Edwards. Can the general put it on the podium? Can Kevin Desnoyers hold off Alexander Russell? Can Anna Klimek and Alistair Khan Hunter Ingrab all survive. Away we go. We're going to watch the general, Kevin Burrell. He is chopping the time away from Logan Edwards, now within 1.7 seconds. Russell gets through Des Noyers. Russell is going to go up to 6th, and he was at one point in this race, Jacob, he was down in 12th spot. So what a drive from Alexander Russell. But the general, Kevin Burrell, is hunting a podium, and that's where we'll keep it.
Quite sure he's going to have enough time, at least in terms of laps, given the margin the last time by. But, you know, long way around, four plus miles here at Spa. There's opportunities to make mistakes left, right, and center. We'll see if he's able to reel Edwards on in.
We will indeed. Brashear also, for the record, made an attempt to go on to the alternate tires, and that ended in tragedy for him. He is going to be classified 16th. Rashad Craig off the track. He will claim 14th, as Berteau claims 15th. Kevin Burrell is within 1.2 seconds. He's at the double apex Puhan corner, and they're going to head down to 13, 14, 15th. That's Campus and Stavelot. And we're going to see if Kevin Burrell can sneak a podium here. He's within a second, Jacob.
Constantini and Munoz have crossed the line. Long ways back to Edwards and Burrell, 40-plus seconds.
It is
Looks
indeed.
like Edwards has gotten a solid exit.
It is indeed. They're both on the button. They are both nearly out. It's about a 4-second advantage for Logan Edwards over Kevin Burrell. So we'll see if that makes any difference. We're headed down toward the chicane, and I don't think Kevin Burrell is going to get close enough. He got close. He closed up nearly 4 seconds in 2 laps, but not enough. Logan Edwards is going to claim your final podium spot. And then it's another 10 seconds back to this man, Ross Banfield. And we'll have Banfield come across the line there. He is. Along comes Alexander Russell. Barney checkered flag in hand. Is Des Noyers going to be able to hold on from Ingrav? This will be interesting. Kevin Des Noyers steers home the no-nose cone fiercely Ford machine. It can't be handling very well, but he's going to salvage 7th. He was nearly caught by Ingrav, Klimek, and Kahn. David Hinger is still on the course. Hinger is going to be the final finisher on the lead lap. There he is, and he is a long way from home, Jacob. Nearly a lap down, but he's going to get a lead lap finish in 11th.
Talk about Hunter Ingrav. He started on the back row with Hanger in 19th and made it all the way up to 8th.
Yes, he did. And here's David Hinger, and we will allow him the honor of being the final machine to be flagged off. There's David Hinger. And so it's a fun night at Spa in the wet. Michele Constantini, Jaden Munoz, Logan Edwards are your podium. The general, Kevin Burrell, brings it home 4th. Ross Banfield will round out your top 5. Alexander Russell, Kevin Des Noyers, Hunter Ingrav, Anna Klimek, and Alistar Khan. 6 through 10. In 11th, it's David Hinger. Final car on the lead lap. Matt Taylor in his debut drive for Team I5G is 12th. Shady Ahmed, 13th. Rashad Craig made the run on the dries. Didn't help him out. Slow, penalized in the wall. Rashad Craig classified 14th. Alan Berteau rounds out the top 15. Caleb Brashear also tried the dry tires. It netted him 16th. Jacob Oster in his debut for Power Slide is 17th. Nadi Immel, Daniel DeCat Durazo, and Alexander Van de Zandt will round out your top 20. That was an interesting race, Jacob, I must say.
At least we got ourselves an interesting one in Spa.
We did indeed. And speaking of interesting, we've got an interesting man in the booth. It's the old narc brain, Logan Edwards. Logan, you've got Murph and you've got Jacob Collins in the P1 broadcasting booth. You got a copy?
Yeah, I got you.
Well, I'll tell you what, man. That was an interesting an interesting rain race. It's the first one we've really had. Kind of talk to us about how that developed, and was there ever any consideration to doing the dry tires, or did you send Caleb out as the guinea pig and pretty quickly knew that it wasn't going to work?
I considered it. I stayed out a lap longer than two of the leaders. And, I mean, there's a lot of tracks where I would have put the dries on, but there are so many high-risk corners that never really get dry, like Al Rouge. And I thought that the dries could never safely get me through those corners.
Yeah, we could definitely see the dry line developing, for example, at the end of the Kimmel Straight. But at the bottom of the hill, at the bottom of the hill, it was a completely different story. You still, at the end of the race, you still needed a boat to get through the Eau Rouge complex. Also, there was another corner, I believe Stavelot, where there were still puddles and rivers running across the track. All in all, though, you bring it home third. Jacob, do you have anything for Logan this evening?
Yeah, it definitely seemed like a lot of guys were having to wrestle the car around a good portion of the lap, especially in the early stages. Do you have any thoughts as to maybe some of the things you did to prep for kind of how you had to adapt to the changed conditions, especially in the opening going? We haven't quite seen it be this wet in a race so far in official competition, so it's just interesting to see if you had anything specific that you were doing out there to try to adapt the car.
Just staying on the wet lines, just kind of avoiding the rubber buildup. Just the driving's easier for me than most because I started sim racing through rally racing and off-road stuff. So it's very sideways way. It's way to get around, but it's fun. Definitely a lot of feeling you have to do. I really feel like having haptics help me here.
Did having a handbrake help you? You weren't sliding this car, were you?
No, I wasn't hand braking, but sometimes you'd go into a corner and realize that you're a little too late for the conditions, and then end up having a little bit of a scary situation.
For certain, sure. Well, I'll tell you what, Logan, it was a pleasure. It was a pleasure having you up here. It's good to see you back in the booth. Good to see you back on the podium. You know the drill. Friends, family, sponsors, shout outs. The floor is yours, my man.
Shout out to Ligmansky Racing Esports, our sponsors, Lilac City IT, iPredictor, and iCoaching Academy. A shout out to P1 Broadcasting for putting the show on. And that's it.
There you go. Well, thank you so much, Logan, for joining us. Keep going fast, having fun, buddy, and we'll see you at the next one.
See ya.
Yes, sir. That is Logan Edwards. In P2 tonight, we've got Jaden Munoz. Jaden, you've got Murph, and you've got Jacob Collins in the P1 broadcasting booth. I'll kind of ask you the same question that I asked of your colleague Logan Edwards there. How was there ever any thought given to going for the dry tires, or were you pretty sure that wets were the way to go?
I think for sure it was wets. I mean, I don't really know when the crossover is, but it was already kind of tough to drive on the wets, so I assumed that it wouldn't be dry. Especially there were some parts of the track that were still quite a bit of puddles, and you were kind of forced to go over them. So it wouldn't really make sense to go on dries. It'd be really slow going over the puddles. Well, you wouldn't be going anywhere, but yeah.
There were a couple that tried him. Caleb Brashear gave it a go. Rashad Craig, both of them wound up on the hook. So I think you were correct in your assessment. Jacob, what do you have for today's second place finisher?
Yeah, it seemed like obviously a good bit of adaptability came into play with the kind of the changing conditions. I believe you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe you have a good bit of experience other places in the sim, in the wet in particular. Do you kind of have any general things you're taking car to car in handling the wet conditions, or is it kind of each car is its own distinct animal that you kind of got to build up from the bottom?
I think it's more. I mean, the wet tires in most cars on iRacing are somewhat similar, so I kind of have an idea of how the tires will react, and what you can do with strategy. And I mean, yeah, driving wise, I mean, you kind of look for some of the. It's hard to explain, honestly, because I can't even explain it. But I mean, around this track, you definitely want to avoid most of the puddles at the slower corners. Those will really ruin your speed. At the high speed corners, you kind of are forced to take them. And I mean, you just got to modulate your throttle. It's pretty much it. Throttle control. Sorry, and yeah, not getting too much onto the normal dry line in many of the fast corners.
Well, I tell you what, whatever line you took, it was mighty fast, my friends. Congratulations on the middle step of the podium. Friends, family, sponsor, shout outs. The floor is yours, Jaden.
Yep. Thanks for broadcasting the race. It was a good race, good fun race, pretty hectic. And yeah, that's it.
Cool deal. Well, thank you so much for stopping by. Keep going fast and having fun, my friend.
Yep. See you guys.
Absolutely. That is Jade Munoz. He is the second place finisher. I don't think that Jacob Collins paid the appearance fee for Michele Constantini. So don't think that we're going to see the Team BRS driver, but there he is, and we'll give him his due. It was a dominating performance, Jacob. He wins the race by 4.7 seconds over Jade Munoz, and those two, well, they were in a different zip code than everybody else. 43 seconds back to Logan Edwards, and that's kind of the story. This is really one of the first and only times that we've seen two drivers really separate themselves from the field like that.
Well, I think you got to imagine that being on the level of a Constantini or a Munoz puts you at a degree, especially with the extra experience they've probably got elsewhere in the sim in the wet. You know, that's going to pay off in huge dividends. You know, a number of these guys maybe haven't done a ton of wet driving, especially because we haven't had a good bit of it on the IndyCar side of things just yet. So maybe this is just incentive for people to get out on the track and get their galoshes out.
You know, that would be, we're not going to see it a whole lot in the series. You know, you got to think only 7 of the 12 weeks are on road courses, and so there's really only going to be 1, maybe 2 chances a season that you're going to see wet racing. But we're going to do it, and it's going to be extremely relevant not only for Constantini and Munoz, but also for guys like Kevin Burrell, Jacob Oster. Those guys are going to, Alexander Russell, those guys are going to be in the Pro Series that's going to be starting soon enough. And Jacob, I guarantee you that there is going to be at least one wet weather race when it comes to the IndyCar Pro Series time. And so when it comes to that time. And so I look forward to seeing these guys run in those races, and I look forward to seeing them apply what they learned today. And if you out there want to see more IndyCars on iRacing, look no further than the P1 Broadcasting Network. Tonight, Jacob Collins is going to have the nightcap with the Indy Next Series, and they're going to be from the Autodromo Miami. It's the F1 track around a football stadium. Tomorrow night, Gary Godso, 7:15, he's going to have the IndyCar Oval Series live from Indianapolis. We're going to go rectangling, and then Jacob Collins is going to be back with the nightcap immediately following. The Indy Next Series is going to be at Phoenix. Put it in your calendars. Write it down. Beginning in 2026, Thursday, Jacob Collins will no longer have the nightcap on Tuesdays. I, along with Andrew Wood, will be bringing you the one of the longest-running IndyCar series on iRacing. It's the Area 51 IR18 series, and that's going to be at 9:30 Eastern Standard Time. Wednesdays, look for the Formula Indy Series and the Horizon IndyCar Series. Thursday, Luis Gonzalez Nunez brings you the Elite Racing League Road to Indy. And then in February, with the start of the NASCAR season, we're going to have the AMA Grand National Series on Thursday and the Archway Industrial Coatings Truck Series on Friday. Saturday, beginning with the start of the INDYCAR season, the P1 Broadcasting Network is going to be proud to bring you the iRacing INDYCAR Series. And on Sundays, beginning January 11th with a community crown jewel, it's the Votive Indy Derby. And they'll alternate Sundays, the Votive Racing League, along with the Dark Horse CW12 Series. For Mark Murphy, for Jacob Collins, I am Mark Murphy, and our founder, Gary Godso. We do want to thank the people who make this possible, the drivers, the fans. Thank you so much for tuning in tonight. If you haven't already done it, make sure you hit the like and subscribe button. But we also really want to thank the people that actually make it possible, the military, the police, the firemen, the EMTs driving the ambulance, and the nurse that unloads you when you get to the hospital. Jacob, we thank him from the bottom of our hearts. We will see you later. Watch the Indy Next show in 15 minutes, y'all.